Hello, my children, and welcome to Longbox of the Damned! Oh, it's always such a treat to come back to you, my children. The Dead Rising is just always fun. But for someone inexperienced with it, like, say, Batman, it's more of a nightmare. Even more of a nightmare than fighting crime in the suburbs. Batman has an intense fight with the Joker where their little struggle brings up the possibility of life after death, to the point where, after relaxing in the cave later, Bruce even tries to search if there's any scientific basis for an afterlife. He of course finds nothing, but soon receives a phone call from Jim Gordon. In the comics at the time, Jim Gordon had retired as police commissioner. And yet this comic also treats this occasion like Batman has not encountered the supernatural or the undead very often, as if this was an Elseworld, so who the hell knows what continuity this is? But Gordon still has friends in the Gotham County Sheriff's Department who are requesting his help. As Batman says, he doesn't do suburbs. Batman, the Dark Knight, Gotham's protector. Unless you live in a split level far away from the city. Still, the horrific nature of the murders gets his attention. After a series of robberies, the thief was supposedly captured, but then the robberies continued, transitioning into horrific murders of families, killing children, stealing the eyeballs of fathers, that sort of thing. The slayings were clearly not done by the same person as the robber, and Batman elects not to take the Batmobile out there, but instead a stealthier approach. A jetpack! Like a ninja! Batman investigates the home of the latest killing, quickly finding a tube inside of the air conditioner that the police missed. The tubing was used to put a knockout gas into the air conditioner to allow the robber and murderer inside to do their job without anyone waking up. He soon meets his contact, Detective Greer, and gives him the evidence he found. But there's no time to waste. Another murder has happened, but they were able to call the police before he got away. Batman heads in pursuit on jetpack, but the killer manages to knock him down and drug him. Batman later wakes up and meets two more cops investigating the murders, Detectives Keith and Radmuller. Both berate him for letting the killer get away, which Batman agrees with. He was careless, especially because he realizes that the killer knew he was coming, may have even wanted his attention. With no other leads, he goes to the burglar who was robbing the houses, Parsons, who clearly has been in a bit of a scuffle. Batman gets him to confess to having worked with the killer, having set up the method used to break into houses. But also, Batman realizes that a cop must have been involved in this. Before Parsons can admit to the killer's identity, he is sniped from outside. While he has Alfred call for an ambulance, he chases the killer and struggles with him. The killer manages to knock him out again, but not before Batman is able to swipe his police badge off of him. Detective Radmuller! They head after him, but Radmuller has prepared for this moment. A ritual with the stolen eyeballs, and him in a noose. As Batman narrates, he needed someone like Batman to hunt him down with precision and skill. And all for this unusual trap. When Batman storms into the room, opening the door pulled away his chair, and caused Radmuller to break his own neck in the noose. Huh. Weird. Well, serial killers do fall into horror and suspense, but it feels odd that they've already dealt with the murderer. Say, wasn't Batman wondering about an afterlife when this comic began? In the ambulance taking Radmuller's body away, he wakes up and murders everyone inside of it, the dead workers rising up as zombies under his command. While Batman has residual nightmares from the drugging he experienced, he knows something else is up, given Radmuller's ambulance crashed and his body not recovered. He also fails to notice Alfred pulling worms from his decaying flesh. Seeing more visions of the dead walking, Batman soon gets another call from Gordon, who is summoned by Detective Keith, who needs to speak to Batman. The bodies of Radmuller's final victims are missing from the morgue, and they meet up at their house, discovering the undead body of the father victim. Keith is shot in the ensuing struggle and dies in Batman's arms. But speaking of arms, after Batman leaves, an arm reaches out of Keith's mouth. Deadman! One of my favorite characters in the DC universe, given, you know, he's a ghost and all. Really should have given him top billing in my opinion. When he once again struggles with the undead victim, Batman comes close to threatening worse violence upon him. But when he turns his back in disgust over what he did, the body vanishes. He wonders if he's still being affected by the drug and contacts Alfred, who's a little decayed at the moment. Our hero runs into a zombified Detective Greer, who claims that this is all Batman's fault. Deadman meets up with Batman, who's actually able to see him. He explains that they are trapped in some kind of place between the living and the dead, enacted by a magical curse that is causing time to fold in on itself. Deadman is happy to help. It's not often there's so much life in the land of the dead.
That's because they always ruin the party.
They head back to Radmuller's apartment, where Deadman explains that all of the undead they have encountered here are souls trapped in time, waiting for Batman to determine their fate. He also warns that Batman's own limitations in his imagination and thought processes could be a hindrance to the situation, especially as what they encounter at Radmuller's apartment is Batman himself, waiting outside the door of the apartment to make the move that will cause the murderer to be hung. The curse is one of two possible outcomes, and if Batman can undo the curse, he can change it. Outside, they find an army of the undead waiting for them, having been sent by Radmuller. The two fight as best as they can, but Batman loses Deadman in the chaos. Radmuller laughs at Batman's predictability as he fights, that all he knows is violence. It's what made him perfect for the curse. Radmuller is even able to outfight the Dark Knight, saying that not all of the crowd of the undead are his victims, but rather Batman's. The people he failed to save, the ones he didn't help because he was busy helping someone else. Batman flees, unable to handle so many, especially as they swarm out of everywhere. But Batman soon receives help. The undead Jason Todd, who instructs him to head for a particular house on a hill. He reaches it and finds Parsons, the burglar, now dead as well, but not zombified like the others. However the curse works, it seems to not affect children, so now Parsons is acting as a guardian for the children from their parents. Speaking of, Parsons shows him the basement of the house and discovers Radmuller's parents, chained to a wall and tortured. They explain that thieves broke into the house and did this to them, but their son refused to help, just watched them die. Radmuller does not even remember doing it, but it seems he was always a bit of a sociopath. Watching his parents die drove him to become the monster he is now. As the undead break in, Deadman returns with some additional help. The Phantom Stranger, who blasts away the undead. He explains that a lot of the curse hinges on Batman's own mental state. He is unwittingly giving more and more power over to Radmuller, which allows him to shape reality even more than he already has. Jason Todd came to him because he was thinking of Jason at that moment. Batman's thoughts shape the curse. And with that, Batman meets his parents, who encourage him to look past how he remembers them, dead on the street, and give them a life beyond that. Remember more than the pain their death caused. Batman goes to confront Radmuller again, bringing with him not only his mystical companions, but Radmuller's freed parents, who proclaim that they wish he was never born. With Batman having more control over the situation, not playing along with the curse, he can easily shove aside the undead. Radmuller needed Batman to stay thinking a certain way. But Batman is a survivor, and survivors adapt and change. With Batman in full control of the curse, he sets things right, bringing them back to the door that would kill Radmuller. He instead opens it fast enough to also throw a batarang at the rope, cutting him down before his neck could snap. Radmuller doesn't remember anything, but knows something happened. Batman is only too happy to tell the police, all alive and restored, that he has no idea what Radmuller is rambling about. He's just another criminal, not some black magic mastermind. He tells the cops it was a pleasure to work with them.
So, what was the deal with the zombie Alfred?
And our hero leaves in the most appropriate manner for this dark story of curses, the undead, survival, adapting, and learning to move on. Via jetpack!
Some things have to change, my children, but other things you can take comfort in. That they'll always be around for you. Like 30 more days of Longbox of the Damned!